I'm ready to get my life started. Like, I'm ready to make big girl money here. And do you know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like that feels like that, almost like a marking, like starting point. Like, yeah, you are responsible now. You got your life going on. But the recruiter was talking to me and she's like, hey, do you have a degree in design? I was like, no, I don't. And she's like, oh, sorry. Like, you're just automatically disqualified, even though I was willing to work towards like learning on the job and things like that. But I don't blame her because that's just her role. She's meant to find people to suit, the role, the qualifications. And so that really just lit a fire up under my butt. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to wait for someone to give me the green light anymore. I am going to create my own path. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm going to start today. I'm going to start a business. And
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Joe's Funland. I'm your host. God, what the?
Yeah.
I'm your host,
Yeah.
Joe Ho. And today we are joined with two very special guests. We have one of the very best eyelash techs in the business.
Oh,
we also have a wizard with personal finance and credit card hacks.
Yo.
This is Sabrina and Lalit.
Hey.
How you guys doing? Woo!
Woohoo! Oh, no, we're doing good. No, so good seeing you always. Literally, it's always a good vibe. So glad that we get to catch up today and just chit chat and get to know each other better.
Yeah, I think last time we hung out was the time we did the photo shoot, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was actually our first time hanging out more than just a hey, what's up?
Yeah, literally.
So many what's ups and for real, really.
Yeah. Yeah, which is cool, man. You're a cool guy.
Yeah,
You're a cool
likewise,
guy.
man.
Yeah. And Sabrina, I remember one time when you did my eyebrows for me.
Oh, wait.
Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like it's been so long because so Joe and I were on TikTok and he's pretty active on TikTok, and sometimes he'll send me videos like, yo, we should do this. I'm like, heck yeah, let's collab. So you just brought back a memory, and we still got to do that too.
Yeah.
We'll make a session happen. Okay.
We'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I did want to kind of talk to you a little bit too about your business.
Okay.
So you are the proud owner of Gently Lashed.
Yes, I am. It's been 6 years now. So
6 years?
I think 2019 of April is when I started, and maybe later in April. So yeah, it's been a minute, but it's been a good minute for sure. Yeah.
How did you even get started doing all that?
Well, it's a long story, but we got time to spill the beans and stuff. So, naturally being in college, we're just progressing onto the route to, get a corporate job and things like that. But honestly, I wasn't even thinking about what I was going to do next. I was just going with the flow in terms of signing up for classes and things like that. And then, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to major in, and I would normally look for advice oh, hey, top jobs in the USA of 2015, 2016. I'm like, oh, okay, IT sounds like a pretty good field to be in. It's a good financially secure paying job in the future. Why not? But that's where I wasn't really leading with my own passion yet. That was something I have yet to discover. And after graduating, all my college friends, they are, working and things like that. And I just never really thought about myself being in that type of setting. And I think that's why I just didn't really progress forward in that type of route. And so after college, I was like, okay, your girl gotta make her own money because I ain't gonna ask nobody for some money. I think maybe it's a pride thing or something, or seeing our parents work so hard. I'm like, okay, I started working when I was 15-year-old, starting as hostess and waitress and tutoring kids, and eventually teaching music for a little bit. So while that was going, I was also applying for other jobs like marketing and things like that, but it just never really panned out that way. Either the budget was really tight, or maybe they didn't want me there, right? So those are answers you won't know, but it's always those telltale signs of like, hey, you're just being redirected into something better. And I didn't know what that was going to be. And so one day I remember thinking about like, oh, snap, I want to be like a flight attendant. And I feel like he's also been there with me through that, where I'm like, I have so many different interests. What do I focus on? And during that time and age, I think I was like 21 or 22. And my mom's like, why don't you just choose one thing? And I'm like, because I can't. I literally cannot explain why. Like, I think for me, my life is more of like, you know, I have to I'm more like experimental, and like until I find something, then I'll kind of dive deeper into it. That's just something I'm able to recognize, like now looking back, like that was very necessary. And, you know, I went through the whole process of like going through the flight attendant interviews, and I got, it was like a week or two before going to training, and in my heart, and we had a conversation too, I'm like, do I really want this? And I'm like, man, I would rather travel on my own time versus like having to work to travel. So
right.
Everything kind of raced. Like I felt like I was like going to take one step forward, but I went 10 steps back. And I remember crying to like my parents. I was like, man, how come I can't just choose? And my dad's like, yo, man, why are you crying? Like, you didn't even you're still here. It's not that big of a deal.
I can hear your dad saying that too.
Literally. And so I was like, okay. And my mom's like, oh, you know what she's thinking. She's like, oh, well, you know, you should come back to Malaysia with me since you graduated. And when you get your big girl job, you ain't going to have that much time off. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I go back, and my cousin and I, it's just like a random day. We're chilling at home in Malaysia, and she's like, oh, have you ever gotten your lashes done? I was like, oh no, like what is that, the process? So the night before, I'm kind of like researching into it, and she comes with me to the appointment, and throughout the whole process, I'm like asking a lot of questions. My eyes are closed, and afterwards, when I opened my eyes, I saw myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, damn, I look good. And it's not just that. It was more of like the feeling, and you just feel really good about yourself. But I also really enjoyed the experience of getting my lashes done, and wanted to later, you know, replicate that for my clients right now. And coming back from Malaysia to here, I still was following my, you know, kind of like the program, like I should have a job. I should be having that big girl job. And so I was redirecting myself into like UX design and trying to build my portfolio, networking and things like that. And even went to like North Carolina for an interview with like Apanad at that time. And even I would say I really want this, but I don't really want it. Even when I was like shaking the person's hand, I was like, oh man, I don't even want to be here. And, you know, it didn't work out, which is okay. Then a recruiter called me one morning, and she's like, oh, hey, like I got this entry level role open. Are you interested? I'm like, heck yeah, like let's go. Like I'm ready to get my life started. Like I'm ready to make big girl money here. And do you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like that feels like that almost like a marking, like starting point. Like, yeah, you are responsible now. You got your life going on. But the recruiter was talking to me, and she's like, hey, do you have a degree in design? I was like, no, I don't. And she's like, oh, sorry, like you're just automatically disqualified, even though I was willing to work towards like learning on the job and things like that. But I don't blame her, because that's just her role. She's meant to find people to suit, you know, the role, the qualifications. And so that really just lit a fire up under my butt. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to wait for someone to give me the green light anymore. I am going to create my own path. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm going to start today. I'm going to start a business. And I remember going to my dad. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to start a business. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, lashes. And at that time, when I came back from Malaysia, I wanted the same exact set. And I asked her for the mapping, you know, the curls, the lengths, diameter. And when I went to somebody else, it looked completely different. I was like, wait, like, why is this happening? You know what I'm saying? So then I kind of go through the whole YouTube rabbit hole and online and Instagram. And eventually I wanted to solve that problem or, challenge per se, where you can still find, like, you can have lash extensions, still look like yourself. And I feel like I kind of understand the pain points when it comes to not wanting to have something look like too not as like harmonious to your eyes. So I was like, okay, how do I create that blend, and just learning from others. And that's where I took my first course, and then took my first model, then client. And a couple months in, I was like, oh shit, I have to have a esthetician license at minimum to do this. So
oh, you do? Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like, I guess legally in the States and stuff, like for tax reporting reasons. And so I go to school in February 2020 in cosmetology school, and I was like, you know what, might as well, because I will have like the tool belt to be able to do like hair, nails, skin, lashes if I want to. And what's funny is that my mom, when I was like 13 years old or something, she's also a hairstylist. So she naturally have like her family friends come through doing their hair, and I would help her, like give her like the perming paper so she could put in the rollers. And one day she's like, oh, you know what, you should kind of consider going to cosmetology school. I'm like, hell no, like I don't want to. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just, I was like, nah, it ain't for me. But sometimes, like, your siblings or your friends, they can kind of see the strengths in you, the qualities where like, hey, you're naturally good at this because it's part of your aligned interests. And I was like, who knew? And it kind of just evolved into this way. And I remember having a conversation with my dad where he's like, oh, it's really hard to blend in like what you like to do and also earn good money from it. And I also wanted to challenge that notion where I'm like, nah, man, like I feel like you could definitely do it. And it just takes, you taking a chance on yourself and being true to yourself. So my belief system is like, if you do what you like, then everything will eventually just, work out for you and open your path. So that's how Gently Lashed started. And I really had no intention in like being in the beauty industry, being in the lash industry. But what keeps me there is the connections, the relationships you build with the people, your clients over time. And we become more like friends over the years, and being there for their moments, and also being able to be a representation that like you can follow your passions and, be good in life. And that's something I'm continuously working on. So not every moment is like all rainbows and stuff either. Yeah. So that was a long story, but appreciate y'all.
That was a good story though.
That's
It was a good story. It all kind of came like full circle too, like especially when you brought it, like your mom kind of brought it up in the beginning. You're like, hell no. Yeah. And then now you're like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And like, growing up, I would help my brothers with like skincare and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like, this is like just a funny memory where for some reason I like had peanut butter on like a spoon, and I was in front of the mirror where I'm like eating the peanut butter, but then I'm like, oh, it got on my skin, and I'm like, and then I like put it all over my face. And then I think I was like trying to convince Bernie and my older brother. I was like, hey, did you know like if you do this for your face, your skin's gonna look really good? No, he didn't. Oh. He's like, you're tricking me, you're lying to me right now. I was like, yeah. But it's so satisfying to see them like be confident in their own skin over time and just be able to help others do the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah
I know, like you mentioned, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Mm-hmm. Especially, I mean, even though like your dad was concerned about you, and it's like, yeah, it's hard to make money while doing something like this, and yeah, you proved him wrong, but also he does have a point too. I just wanted to know, like, what were some of the challenges, I guess, you faced early on starting the business, and like, is that, or was it just all like, you were just like, oh, this is easy?
I would say like something that was challenging was so there's like a lot of different like, questions, or like when it comes to like, oh, what type of challenges you go through. But I think it's also like the whole mindset of like kind of seeing it through, because there's so many ways to get swayed into a different direction. But it's also because, like, let's say my mom, and she sees like one of my friends doing well in her career. She's like, oh, why don't you consider this? And it's like very repetitive. Like, oh, why don't you use your like degree in IT, or why don't you study this? They make so much more money. But then, and you know, sometimes I'm like, yeah, well, you know, maybe life would be easier if I just did this, but then I don't really want to do it. And like, it's like that back and forth like battle in my mind where I'm like, how do I keep myself solid versus like wavering? And there's like a lot of times where I would waver, where I'm like, damn, like I really regret not like doing like being in the field, because maybe life would have been better per se, or like maybe I would be in a spot where I could be able to help my like, you know, family or loved ones more easily if I had like the money and stuff. But then that would also be at like it would come at a cost of my own like happiness too. So I think I'm also trying to like stride for like certain goals where I'm able to, you know, put more focus on myself so I could be better and do better. And that really just like, it's like a ripple effect. So don't really mind too much of what others think sometime, and just like follow your gut. Follow it. Yeah.
I'd love to add a couple of things, seeing it kind of from that time frame, from a third party view.
Yeah. Let me hear your point of view too.
Yeah, I would say like in the beginning, it's the first thing is like, you know, knowing that, hey, you need that cosmetology license. That's what it's called, right? To be like an esthetician, to be, you know, officially proper. But then it's like, you really wanted to do it, which is so commendable, like versus needing like all the legal items. It's like you really wanted to do it. You weren't like, let me get the degree to get the job. You were like, I'm willing to do it anyways, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like being okay with it, being able to like practice, like actually doing lashes, but then like technically on paper, like, oh, you're not supposed to do it, right? Like, you know, if you don't have like, you know, whatever, like a sink or something in a room, but you just want to practice and like do it for your friends or whatever, right? So you're like, dang, I now need this other degree. So technically you went from like your first degree, then you got a master's just to pursue the business. So I think that's really cool. And then like just seeing like COVID happen in the middle of everything, right? So like then that I remember like was like a dang, you know, this is a physical business and obviously high touch.
Oh, yeah.
So that's easy to forget that throughout the years. And
so true.
I remember you navigating it in such
what did you do during COVID?
Yeah.
Like
during COVID, business stopped. Like it legit stopped. You know, everybody's got to stay home, and thankfully I mean, I had a steady clientele, but it wasn't like as big yet. So I could also take a step back to focus onto my studies when I was in like cosmetology school. So I wasn't really too stressed about it. And then like soon after, I think like 3 months of like COVID being super serious, people are like, so like, can I get my lashes done now? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You know, just like come in with a mask and things like that. So, but you just brought up a good point where I thought about like the physical challenges, and that's also what led me into, you know, choosing like the IT degree at first, because when I was going through some like health problems, originally diagnosed with like rheumatoid arthritis, it was really hard for me to, you know, stand up or move or hold things, like twist a bottle open. So there was a lot of that part of my life that kind of like dwindled down for a little bit. And then when I was asked by my doctor at that time, he's like, oh, why aren't you taking your medication? I was like, nah, like I think I'll be fine without it. He's like, well, do you want to be crippled for the rest of your life? I'm like, no, but then again, I wanted to challenge that notion. And so I was like, I don't want to believe that's true. Like that is not my reality. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I choose to believe something else. So I was like, how about I start getting back into like dance again, or start to re-socialize again? Because I think for me, what I notice when I'm going through a hard time, I'll kind of become more of like a hermit. I feel like I just don't want to like, not say like burden anybody with my problems. It's something I know I have to work through with myself on first. And so there's that. And then, you know, when I wanted to be a flight attendant, my mom's like, hey, you know, you have these health issues that haven't been completely resolved yet. because I was still trying to find like a good doctor at that time with proper medication. And she's like, how are you going to be able to put the luggage up on top? Like, if you have a hard time, like, picking up things, I'm, nah, man, it's okay. Like, don't worry, I got this. And then later, like realizing when I was diagnosed with lupus and I was going through, like, a really hard time, you know, being, like, hospitalized and stuff. And thank God for my family and you guys for being there. I remember calling you when I was, like, in a hospital and stuff. And like moments like those, you know, I cannot physically do anything. Like, I literally cannot lash. And that's where I also had the challenge where I'm like, how can is this going to be a long-term thing, right? Like, I don't know if I could do this in the future. And that's where I'm also like weighing my options. What do I do next? But instead of like kind of forcing the answer or forcing a way to make something happen, I think I'm just going to be grateful for the abilities and the health that I have right now, because I trust that with what I'm doing right now, it will open up new opportunities and exploring other stuff. So, yeah.
You have really like that rebel spirit like mentality, which is awesome. I commend that. I think it's because you're a middle child.
You think so? Is it that middle child syndrome?
I think it's that middle child thing. I think because you're always like, oh, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Wait, you're a middle child too?
I am.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Yo, look at that. And the oldest brother right here.
Yeah. He's just like shaking his head at us like, oh, you middle children.
Yeah, literally.
You know, I haven't read up a lot on like the middle child syndrome, other than like, you know, oh, the middle child always feels left out, like given more attention to the youngest or the oldest. I never felt that way, but other than that, what is like the middle child characteristics that you have read about?
I don't know too much about it either, but from what I've read, it's that like usually like the middle child is like more a lone wolf kind of stereotype or archetyped. Usually they're more rebellious. They're kind of like, oh, I don't fit in anywhere, so I'm gonna carve my own path. They're very like, I'm gonna prove everybody wrong.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, now it's like not even like I'm gonna prove everybody wrong, but I'm gonna prove myself right.
Ooh,
you know, it's
bars.
not. It's literally.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's like literally not about like, oh man, what you said is wrong, because everybody's realities and the way they live their world is quite different. And so I'm like, well, if I do not agree with this, then, you know, I'm just gonna live my life differently and just make it happen stuff.
Do you have a older brother, younger sister? What's the?
I have an older sister and a younger brother. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
You have a younger...
I have a younger brother. I'm the oldest brother.
Right. Okay.
So I think that lone wolf, it's like true with the middle child to go their own path, but then it's like, it's that same older brother kind of thing. It's like, hey man, you got it a little easier because I had to do the thing first. To then give you the input, to then you to think you're the lone wolf, if you know what I mean. But
do you feel like you fit this stereotypical like older sibling archetype, or?
I would say yeah, but I think I don't know if it's that immigrant mindset kind of thing, but like subconsciously, even though it's not conscious to me at the time when I'm like 5-6 years old, it's like you see the years of like your parents kind of going through the thing, whatever that is, and like maybe feeling some of their feeling without you know, knowing what that feeling is. So it's like I know how much they like love me and everything, but then they're going through their thing, you know? And so then when you see that, it's kind of like, how can I alleviate this? So like already those thoughts from a young age are like, you know, if they're working hard, even if it's easier not for them, it's like, how can I make them have a better time, easier time, all those things. And the joke I always say is like, so I have a younger brother, right? I'm 4.5 years older to him. So then like I joke, initially people are like, oh, do you have a sibling? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I was an only child. And until like, you know, 4.5 years, and then I got a brother, you know, because when my brother hears that, dude, I'm your brother, I'm right here. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like you weren't here until, you know, 1999 or whatever. It's like a small thing. But no, I think I definitely fit it. But I think it comes also from, you know, like parental influence. And I think my dad was the youngest male in a group of 8 siblings. So he has 5 sisters and 2 other like male brothers. And so I think there's also those archetypes, right? Like he's technically kind of middle child, but he's the youngest male, and then like again like maybe Asian Indian influence. It's like, hey, males have to earn money, be a provider, all that. So then he was like, you know, I think because he's the youngest, but then maybe he saw what he in his own mind, right? He's like, oh, I have to take care of everything in his own regard, like maybe made it up in that way. And then obviously seeing that kind of path for him, even if it was a hard time, I was like, well, how do I make that easier? But then seeing what he went through, I was like he put so much effort in my own standards. I was like, oh, I can't beat that. Like he had to do so much more. You know what I mean? That type of feeling. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but like kind of that, you know, somewhere full circle, kind of like it goes like generationally sometimes too, I think is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And honestly, like knowing you and like what I've seen of you and everything like that, you're a really hard worker as well.